Well, hello, everybody. Better late than never. I was playing around with my StreamYard application here, which allows me to screen share, as you see. And since I am a little late, due to a delicious 2 hour nap I just did, following some really delightful collaboration with a friend, Katarina Verde, artist par excellence, who uh, took me out of my acting retirement today. So we made something together. Uh, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about the 2 hour nap and why I'm late and how it's expeditious to have my Kabbalah card up on the screen already rather than spend time dickering around technically putting it up there. I did that before I went live, the technical dickering around. Anyway, Gimel. Gimel is lovely. It is one of my favorite cards. It begins the Hebrew word Gemelet Chasedim, which is loving kindness, and it is all about those qualities of nurturing, qualities of growth. And I like what it says with regard to my rap today, because if you pull this card, which we all did just now, it is time to give yourself that sort of nurturing, particularly in an area of study, an area in which you want to challenge yourself, or an area in which you are inadvertently challenged by, such as COVID now, even though we're in the reopening phase. Something I wanted to talk about a little bit, which I have chatted about once before, but my good friend reminded me of this. And that is, what is it like to have been going through quarantine alone, as many people have? And I contrast this with collaboration because, as I said, she and I were playing this morning on a new project that she is developing, and I got to play a couple of characters, different characters. Uh, and we work off each other, right? When you're collaborating, you don't have time, or you don't have the luxury of hyper focusing on how bad the inner critic is making you feel, because you are outside of yourself. Engaged with another person trying to make something together that neither of you would have been capable of producing alone. Um, and we were talking about the alone also, and how difficult it is, both as a creator, but also just as a person. The thing about this Zoom stuff that we do now, in a way, it does facilitate connection, but at the same time, there is a disconnect we cannot compensate for that has to do with the electromagnetic energy that's exchanged when you're in the same room with another person, even if you're 6 feet apart. That exchange is very interesting, because the lack of it isn't about loneliness. The lack of it is about awareness. It creates a hyper self-awareness for some. And she was describing this quality. When you are working with other people or just being with other people, you are constantly offsetting your own emotional reality. People are interrupting your train of thought. You're taking on their feelings, which is something that's very treacherous, but happens a lot without us even knowing it. We will introject shit into each other. That's one good thing about living by yourself right now. There's nobody to introject their shit into you, like their feeling of shame or inadequacy. And just be aware of that. There are people who you may be around who bring that up in you from time to time. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they are in pain and you're picking it up. And sometimes that's just being empathetic in terms of that electromagnetic energy. Other times it is an unconscious lack of boundaries, because that person is actually feeling better when they introject their negative feeling into you. And once you are aware of that, you can shore up that space in your aura and let that introjection hit the imaginary bulletproof vest and clunk to the floor, or or it bounces back to them, whatever, right? So that's the downside of too much togetherness, actually, right? Getting back to being alone, however. One thing Katerina noticed is that there was nobody to absorb her energy or transmute her energy or thought. And it's very possible, if you are in a state of involuntary aloneness, as many of us are, you start to notice your mood swings in a big way. There is a metacognition that goes uninterrupted, which can be alarming at first. And I think it takes a shift in mindset when you see yourself going from bored to angry to happy to serene, all by yourself with no witness. An attitude of curiosity is called for, and a sense of humor towards yourself is called for. I think that's always called for, no matter what. So what is the practical application of this? Most of the time, I'm developing stuff alone. I am creating stuff by myself. Hey, Katerina, I'm so glad you checked this out. By the way, feel free to type into the chat, because I will see it. And if you have a question, I will answer it, okay, to the best of my ability. But what is the practical application of this petri dish experience where you are looking down a microscope at yourself? There's nothing to distract you in terms of, for instance, the work you do. And as I was saying, I put stuff together by myself quite a lot. And if I didn't have people to at least bounce it off of later, I would be lost. However, in the process of at least getting it out there, it's important to maintain that mindset of curiosity, because when you come up against a block, you come up against your own resistance. There is something going on there. And rather than getting frustrated, which really doesn't help, it might be worthwhile to say, why am I in a brain fog all of a sudden? I know what my intention was sitting down to this. This is why when I work with consultants, I ask permission to tape the recording of the conversation. Often all it takes for me is going back and listening to get me unstuck. Oh, that's what he said to do. Okay, great. I can go back to the drawing board now and pull this together. Or sometimes it's just not ready to emerge. Whatever the idea is, or the opus is, the movement, whatever, it's not ready to emerge. And rather than getting frustrated and calling yourself a procrastinator and all of those other labels and stuff, which I'm not saying aren't real, but many times I think in the process of creating, they're not. We're just not letting ourselves alone. it pays to just be curious. So, I guess I'm not ready to do this right now. Where can I put my focus, or what can I do to clear things out? And for me, one tool has always been meditation. Meditation, that is the ultimate metacognition. When you are seated in a formal meditation, simply observing a chosen object, and that object could be your breath, it could be the different body parts, it could be a mantra, but the point is, you will notice you start thinking about other things, and those other things will make you feel things, and all of a sudden you notice that you stop meditating. You need to bring your focus back to the object. So it is training in this way of paying attention to what you're paying attention to, because for us and everybody else as creatives and everybody else, what you pay attention to grows. And I think I've mentioned this before, but this is a very gentle, kind, Gimel-esque way of allowing your brain to find itself in a very lucid place. I can't tell you the number of times that I've made a decision about something I'm working on, and it's not, okay, I'm going to go with it because I'm not going to be a perfectionist. And sitting in meditation, suddenly it hits me what the real answer is to the creative problem. I don't jump up and write it down and trash the meditation. I just go, I notice it with great loving amusement and go back to meditating. Because believe me, I have never had an experience where it hasn't stuck around, or that it hasn't returned and allowed me to implement it later. But the more you disrupt your meditation, the less likely you are to have those moments of lucidity. So if you're using meditation as a tool, that's just a tip. I keep a notebook by my table. I finish the meditation, and then I sit quietly for a second. And sure enough, the idea returns. I write it down. This is very helpful, in my opinion, when it comes to being by yourself and creating. Certainly, when it comes to being by yourself, it's like a cat with a urinary infection. Cats with urinary infections start peeing everywhere because they think it's the litter box that's hurting them. They don't realize that wherever they go, there they are. Right? Wherever you go, there you are. And if you are not happy, just feel unhappy. Just be with that unhappy. As an acting teacher of mine used to say, if you feel bad, feel bad. Feel real bad. Doesn't mean you are the bad, but it's telling you something. Just be in your life and embrace it as perfection. It's telling you something, or it's something that you need to live through. So folks, especially those who are on your own, there are going to be a lot of moments like that, ongoing. I mean, we're starting to come out again. We can get together in groups of 10. Woohoo! Although, of course, it shouldn't bear repeating, but it does. Don't get stupid. I love that I live in a part of the country where wearing a mask is cool. And if you don't wear a mask, you look like an idiot. I'm so grateful that that's the part of the country I live in. However, I think this experience is going to change, and we're going to be less isolated. Even as we found these new delightful ways to collaborate together, just as I did this morning with my friend. Gimel. Keep being gentle and kind to yourself. Just remember that whatever it is that's going on is great. Oh, maybe that's a little hyperbole. Maybe it's not great. What's going on is going on. It's not. It is not, what is the word, a condemnation of your nature or your artistry. So that's it. I think that's what I wanted to say about this topic. Katerina, if you happen to still be watching, feel free to type in any extra thought. You may not be here anymore. I don't know. Maybe you've moved on. And anyways, thanks for coming in and cheering me for this. But on the other hand, if I do get any questions about this, or you have any thoughts about it, or you have any thoughts about what you would like me to talk about, please shoot me a message, an iMessage. And I will be seeing you again on Tuesday. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.